This is George Demmerle.
And the Bureau more or less gave me free rein to go where I felt was where I could gain the most information, where I could be most benefit. They originally I was to go to PL, but the rhetoric was just too much for me to stomach at that time. I just couldn't, with progressive labor. So it takes time for one to develop an ability to be able to live with the alien philosophy and, accept it, to a point where you're comfortable with it.
What year was this progressive labor activity?
66.
After that, what were the groups you...
Let's see. Revolutionary Contingent, U.S. Committee to Aid the National Liberation Front, South Vietnam.
Revolutionary Contingent?
Yes.
In the U.S.?
U.S. Committee, Aid the National Liberation Front of South Vietnam.
What do you do in these groups?
Mostly demonstrations. Planning of Revolutionary Contingent, we did some practicing in the mountains, guerrilla warfare. We also met up in Canada during the expo, met with some delegates from the Cuban government, and...
May I ask you, the Revolutionary Contingent you practiced with, what were these, mostly kids?
No, not really kids. I mean, it's hard to say. Well, there were, I'd say, about from 18 up to maybe my age. In fact, there were a couple older.
Where was this? Where did this take place?
Pardon me?
Where did this take place?
In New York.
This was upstate New York?
No. It was right here in New York City. Revolutionary Contingent functioned here.
The group?
It disbanded.
Without arrest, I assume.
Well, it was lack of funds, mostly. Internal dissension, different ideological beliefs.
How difficult was it to win the confidence of the groups in which you were working?
Not difficult at all.
How did you go about it?
Well, I say my real progress was Abbie Hoffman. I just imitated Abbie Hoffman, Jerry Rubin. They made fools out of the kids, and I used the same thing. There was no difference. I mean, I call myself Prince Crazy, and I had no trouble.
Did you have to be super radical in order to get to a position of trust?
Well, yeah. I went up to state several times for shooting, practicing with rifles, side guns, Revolutionary Contingent, and others.
What others?
What's affinity groups, no names.
So then you had to be more or less in the vanguard. You had to. Did you push the work of the group forward in order to gain credence?
Never. That would be. I'd like to slide over that.
How'd you get in with the Panthers?
What do you mean? Wait a minute.
The Panthers. Well, Panthers. Wait 1 second.
Yeah, would you talk about what you mean?
Wait a second. Your question.
Okay. I asked you if you had to forward the work of the group in order to gain acceptance and credence.
By forwarding, do you mean leadership or just, going in with it?
No, I mean leadership, coming up with projects and things like that.
No, I didn't. Well, on minor things which was in the realm of legality or borderline over, you do take steps where you have to.
Could you give me some examples?
Offhand, I can't.
Well, George, could you?
Yeah.
George, could you tell us what was it that made you feel that you wanted to do something like this? That you felt? What led you to begin this type of a career?
It was more or less a projection analysis on my own part from literature I had read from all sources, left wing, right wing, and in a sense like forecasting what would be happening, anticipating what would happen.
How'd you get in with the Panthers?
The Panthers, I threw a couple of benefits for the Panthers. Well, one was the alternate U, the other one at Diplomat Hotel.
First one was where?
Alternate U.
When you started out, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right.
Also-
What developed from these benefits? So what kind of personal contact did you
The
get?
benefits themselves, they just brought me to their attention to, just the figure. I got in pretty close with the Arthur Turco, who was an attorney of the Panthers. And it was,
defending the Black Panthers?
Hey, we got a news conference right here. An interview. You mind?
What was the lawyer's name again?
Turco. He's now wanted for murder. I believe murder or accessory to murder.
When you started out, you were not an informer, is that right? You worked, you joined one of these groups and then you volunteered your services?
Yeah. I was independent. When I went into the left, I was independent.
And why did you get in touch with the FBI at the outset?
I was accumulating data that I had no use for.
And you thought that the group that you were working with at the time was potentially dangerous to the nation?
No.
How do you
No.
Well, then why I just want to pursue that one more step. Why did you get in touch with the FBI then? What impelled you to do that?
Like I said, I was accumulating general intelligence. In other words, in itself, it's meaningless. But put together, correlated with a lot of other material, it has relevance and meaning.
Relevance to what?
To direction a group is moving. For example, you take an individual, he's in one group. If he moves from that group to another group, if it's more militant, you know exactly where he's coming from. You can sort of like build up a whole backlog on an individual's.
So you thought the trend...
and actually anticipate where that person will show up in the future.
So you thought the trend of events was leading towards the group you were working in becoming dangerous to the nation?
Yes.
And what group was that? Where'd you start?
Well, the Revolutionary Contingent. And then I was switched over to Yippie. And Yippie's, I seen, was probably the most dangerous of all.
Why do you say that?
Because, well, the example is, it's like their attorneys, Kunstler, Rubin, Jerry, they tell the kids to burn the schools down, to spill blood. So the kids' bloods are spilled like fools. Abbie Harper was sitting up in his penthouse, reaping in tons of money. I don't know how much he's making, but he's making a fortune. He's a capitalist. And he has hoodwinked the whole college campus movement in this country. What is supposed to be, let's say, lawful dissent becomes a crazed mob. Abbie proposes that students become drug addicts, run naked, burn down their schools, and return to savage, live in the caves.
The people you were working with... Go ahead.
Yeah, how did you supposedly infiltrate the crazies, or the yippies rather?
The Yippies? Well, I just was invited, like everything else. Well, one of the guys I knew said, "Hey, George, you'll dig the Yippies." So I said, "Great." So I went to one of their meetings, and then I attended more and more. Where were the meetings? Was at the Old Free School.
The guys that you were working
Who
with...
was there besides Abbie and...
Abbie, Jerry, Wolf Lowenthal.
Who?
Wolf Lowenthal. I don't know if you know him.
What kind of information about their activities, their non-public activities, since I could have walked in, were you given the FBI?
Well, like seizing buildings. This here was, they were working on way back then.
Yippies
You know.
never seized any buildings.
Well, they had planned it.
The guys that you were working with, what did you think of them? Did you like them? Did you dislike them?
The people in the movement,
That's right.
some of them were damn nice.
Did it bother you that while you thought they were damn nice, you were still going to have to inform on them?
Yeah, but you do it.
Why?
Because you know where they're heading. You know damn well they're going to pick up a gun someday in the future and shoot. Because they're maneuvering themselves into that position. It's sort of like a mob hysteria. You get a crowd running down the street and, boom, that's it.
What kind of information did you give on the Black Panthers?
No comment.
It appears that you had no particular ideological bias in this. You were, at one point, you infiltrated the John Birch Society, or at least you worked with them, and on the other end of the spectrum, you were working with Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman. Well, what motivated you? Were you just the money?
No. Money? $50 a month is ridiculous. No. No, look, you read history. You see current events. You read a lot of right-wing literature. You read a lot of left-wing literature. Both sides are very biased, and it's hard to get a concrete picture. And the only way I could see it and prove to myself what was happening was to go out and find out.
That doesn't explain you're giving the information to the FBI or to the police or anything. Why do you do this if you just want to find out?
Well, if I see people are hell-bent on destroying and destruction, you sure as hell aren't going to just sit back and let them do it, are you?
Well, did you feel the John Birch Society was hell-bent on destruction?
Are you kidding? No. Contrary, that's why I left them.
No. You were not an infiltrator in the John Birch Society.
No.
You were a member.
Yes, I was a member of the Birch Society.
You were talking about the Panthers before. Did you go to any private meetings with them, or were they all just public fundraisers? Private?
Yes.
You said you wouldn't say what kind of information you gave the FBI about them. How did you come to be appointed their delegate, was it, to the White Panthers?
Defense captain in charge of the Young Patriots in New York.
Speaking of the young
The Black Panthers appointed you the defense captain of the White
Yes.
Patriots. So are the Black Panthers making appointments generally for the White Patriots?
Yes. It's part of the Rainbow Coalition.
What were your functions as defense captain?
I was directly subordinate to the Black Panthers. Everybody was in the organization was subordinate to me. My duties was to run the organization.
Were there other people in the groups that you were working with, infiltrating? Were there other informants there too?
I believe there are quite a few around.
Would it be your judgment that almost every left-wing group, radical left-wing group, is got an informant working with it today?
I would say so.
Was it not Turco who was identified as the defense captain of the Young Patriots when he was arrested 2 months ago, I believe it was? And you also were the defense captain for the Young Patriots?
He was national defense. I was local defense captain.
Were you involved in any way? Was your information involved in any way in the arrest of the Young Patriots?
I have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing.
Other than the bombings, did any information you gave the FBI lead to prevention of any kind of violence or crime or takeover?
Yes.
Can you give some examples?
Some demonstrations that were planned where violence was planned. The Bureau would forward it to local authorities who would respond to it.
What was the mechanics of your informing? How did you get the information through to the FBI?
Meetings, regular meetings.
You would meet with agents, special agents of the FBI in New York periodically?
Yes.
Were these agents also undercover agents who were working within the various groups that you were in?
No, these were regular agents.
Are there informants on the far right? For instance, is the National Renaissance Party, do they have informants working with them? Do you know?
I have no idea, but I hope so.
How did you feel when you were picked up and then on the bomber case that this whole thing came to light? How did you feel about the young woman that you lived with who had a great affection for you as an individual who was not aware of this?
No comment on that.
Why not?
No comment.
Was it kind of a battle for you in your personal relationship that your role as an informer had an effect on your personal life?
Affected my personal life, yeah.
Could you tell us how?
No. But like I said, it's personal life. It stays that way.
Well, it is personal, but at this point, it involves people who want to know what kind of a person you are.
What kind of a person I am?
Yeah.
It's very simple. I care about this country. I care about the people. There are kids in the movement on drugs who I help steer away from hard drugs, get them to go home. Other people, I told them, steer them into less radical positions. I risked exposure quite often. to help people who I thought weren't too well steeped in political ideology where they could be reached. And I did reach quite a few.
Did you find it very difficult to go to bed with women to learn more information?
I didn't go to bed to learn information. No.
You didn't?
No, not for information. It doesn't pay that way.
But weren't some of these women that you had relations with a part of the movement?
Well, one of them belonged to a clandestine group that was planning to go into sabotage. Sabotage. No, it's just anarchist revolutionary. No, it's just an anarchist. There is no group. An anarchist is an individual.
In terms of personal danger, was there ever any threats to you?
You know, several times. Well, one was a paranoid scene where I walked into a meeting after which I thought I exposed myself, and I found a rifle pointed at my face as I walked in.
What meeting was this?
Fourth International Socialist Alliance or something like that. It was a meeting down in the Bowery, dilapidated loft building. And to me, it just seemed, at that time, it was the initial stages. It was at the time I was penetrating progressive labor. And it did sort of shook me up, because I really didn't understand what the nature of the organization. Because at that time, I guess most people lump up, quote, communist, period. And at that time, this was my more or less understanding. I knew there were several major factions, but I didn't realize the breakdown in the various groupings.
Did you feel that the groupings were kind of all organized and controlled, and or did you feel that they were very much
well,
doing
it's
their
an
own?
indirect control. A lot of it's manipulation. I could point out a beautiful string. It's like the burning of the schools. I mean, that's manipulated. The whole thing's manipulated. It takes one person. One person can raise hell, can tear down a college.
How do you feel now as far as any personal danger?
Well, there were several attempts on my life after the case was exposed. One involved... No comment.
What did you ask him to?
Where he's working now, what he's doing?
The one place I was staying, there was arsonist came in, set a couple of fires, cut off the elevator, and dim the lights. You know, cut off the electric, elevators, and set fire to the hotel.
Just one time were you threatened with a rifle in your face. How'd you get out of that?
I just walked in and smiled. I asked for Fred, who was the guy who invited me to the meeting.
For the most part, the information you gave the FBI was information on people who were in the groups, their names, who they were, and what they were doing.
Well, just primarily strategies, tactics, people involved, like Pentagon, Chicago, things that are planned in different places.
How much did the FBI direct your activities? Did they tell you what to do?
Very little direction.
What kind of check did they run on you when you first volunteered information to them?
My whole life. Background, people, relatives, place of employment.
Did they respond to your initial contact with them as if it were something unusual, or did it appear to be something that happened with the FBI quite frequently?
It's hard to say. I really don't know.
You did that for something better than 6 years. As you look back over those 6 years, do they count as a very long and difficult period in your life, or was it something now that you take pride in and find was well worth the trouble?
That's hard to say. Let's say my understanding of the nature of politics, radical politics, legitimate politics, I mean, is fantastic. You can't help but learn from it. I learned that there are people in the left who don't belong there, just like there are people, I'm referring to the extremes, the people who don't belong in the extremes of the right. people who are going to get themselves killed, and really, there's no need for it, and they're being used.
And so you moved to stop it.
Yeah, if I can. If I could stop him, I mean, that's what I was primarily concerned with. And man, you know, it's just stupid the way a lot of these people respond to it. It really is. Like, I couldn't understand the rationality behind the response to Cambodia. I sent Nixon a telegram. I was deliriously happy. Wow, the war's going to be over soon. There's no other answer for it. But yet the response is invasion, etc. I mean, it's militarily, strategically, tactically, any way you look at it, there was no other answer for Vietnam. Nixon said he wanted out of Vietnam, and this is the only way he could get out of Vietnam.
I have one last question for you. You spent 6 years more or less living as a hippie, as a person in the East Village. Now you're back living as a straight. How much of your East Village hippie, yippie lifestyle are you going to continue?
A lot of I dig.
Like what?
No comment.
Thank you very much. That was a press conference with George Demmerle, the FBI informer. That press conference here in the lobby of Manhattan Center.